This is a selection from Fear and Trembling, written by Søren Kierkegaard, narrated by Victor Craig. Introduction. Not only in the world of commerce, but also in the world of ideas, our age has arranged a regular clearance sale. Everything may be had at such absurdly low prices that very soon the question will arise whether anyone cares to bid. Every waiter with a speculative turn, who carefully marks the significant progress of modern philosophy, every lecturer in philosophy, every tutor, student, every sticker and quitter of philosophy, they are not content with doubting everything, but go right on. It might possibly be ill-timed and inopportune to ask them whither they are bound. But it is no doubt polite and modest to take it for granted that they have doubted everything, else it were a curious statement for them to make, that they were proceeding onward. So they have, all of them, completed that preliminary operation, and, it would seem, with such ease that they do not think it necessary to waste a word about how they did it. The fact is, not even he who looked anxiously and with a troubled spirit for some little point of information ever found one, nor any instruction, nor even any little dietetic prescription as to how one is to accomplish this enormous task. But did not Descartes proceed in this fashion? Descartes, indeed, that venerable, humble, honest thinker, whose writings surely no one can read without deep emotion. Descartes did what he said, and said what he did. Alas, alas, that is a mighty rare thing in our times. But Descartes, as he says frequently enough, never uttered doubts concerning his faith. In our times, as was remarked, no one is content with faith, but goes right on. The question as to whether they are proceeding may be a silly question, whereas it is a sign of urbanity and culture to assume that everyone has faith to begin with, for else it were a curious statement for them to make, that they are proceeding further. In the olden days it was different. Then faith was a task for a whole lifetime, because it was held that proficiency in faith was not to be won within a few days or weeks. Hence, when the tried patriarch felt his end approaching, after having fought his battles and preserved his faith, he was still young enough at heart not to have forgotten the fear and trembling which disciplined his youth, and which the mature man has under control, but which no one entirely outgrows, except in so far as he succeeds in going on as early as possible. The goal which those venerable men reached at last, at that spot everyone starts in our time in order to proceed further. Preparation. There lived a man who, when a child, had heard the beautiful Bible story of how God tempted Abraham, and how he stood the test, how he maintained his faith and, against his expectations, received his son back again. As this man grew older, he read this same story with ever greater admiration, for now life had separated what had been united in the reverent simplicity of the child. And the older he grew, the more frequently his thoughts reverted to that story. His enthusiasm waxed stronger and stronger, and yet the story grew less and less clear to him. Finally, he forgot everything else in thinking about it, and his soul contained but one wish, which was to behold Abraham, and but one longing, which was to have been witness to that event. His desire was not to see the beautiful lands of the Orient, and not the splendor of the promised land, and not the reverent couple whose old age the Lord had blessed with children, and not the venerable figure of the aged patriarch, and not the God-given vigorous youth of Isaac. It would have been the same to him if the event had come to pass on some barren heath. But his wish was to have been with Abraham on the 3 days' journey, when he rode with sorrow before him, and with Isaac at his side. His wish was to have been present at the moment when Abraham lifted up his eyes and saw Mount Moriah afar off, to have been present at the moment when he left his asses behind, and wended his way up to the mountain alone with Isaac. For the mind of this man was busy, not with the delicate conceits of the imagination, but rather with his shuddering thought. The man we speak of was no thinker. He felt no desire to go beyond his faith.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?